That first phone call that we had where I cried on the phone for, like an hour and a half to you, that was a pretty bleak time in my life. I was in a bad place, I was suicidal and I was trying to go through nursing school at the same time, and even a week at a time was impossible. I would not be here if I was not in this program. I would still be watching porn, 4 to 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, like it was my full-time job. I'd stay up till 6 a.m. when I had to be up at 8 o'clock. Would feel like complete garbage because I'd just be tired and feel exhausted and just feel terrible for nearly failing out of nursing school, too. My porn use damaged the relationship, killed us entirely, killed the intimacy. It really took a lot from her and it took a lot from me because it's always been this destructive thing in my life. I was very skeptical just because I don't trust anything on the internet. How could a program help me out? It didn't make any sense to me. I just decided I didn't want to hurt myself like that anymore. I didn't want to hurt others I was with. I just knew I deserved a better life for myself. So I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to feel like that. I wouldn't be here if I hadn't picked up that 6,000 pound phone and dialed. I consider some of these people in this group my actual brothers, and I talk to them quite frequently. That's priceless to me. That connection piece is priceless. In 4 days, it'll be 10 months. It feels incredible. Like I never thought I would be to this point ever in my life. But I don't have this massive thing weighing me down anymore. I just feel like this is where I've always should have been. I was like, that's quite a bit of money. Is it going to be worth it? It turned out to be the best decision I ever made. Yeah, 100% return investment, signed, sealed, delivered. I mean, you pretty much like saved my life. The power of dealing with something with people your age is insurmountable power, immeasurable. It just feels good to be here. I never thought I'd be here. It might just be the best thing to ever do for yourself.
Garett, welcome back for updated story round 2. The last time that we chatted, goodness, I actually have to look back and see. You were either at 100 days or it was your 6 months.
I'm thinking 3 or 4 months.
I think around there, yeah. But the point of our conversation today really is to first kick off with this question. How long have you been sober from pornography and masturbation now at this point?
In 4 days, it'll be 10 months.
How's that feel to say that?
It feels incredible. Like I never thought I would be to this point ever in my life. I mean, even a week at a time was impossible at one point. It's mind-blowing, and I think about it all the time.
Yeah, and I'd really like to do a quick synopsis of your story for anybody who is first encountering you and your journey through this particular video rather than the previous one that we did, and then ask you some questions really about how you got not only from 0 to 100, but then from 100 to 10 months. And that gap is really what I'd love to dive into here a little bit. So if you could, would you mind giving us like a quick synopsis of who you are, your story, what brought you to orbital recovery?
Yeah, so I started, I was probably 13, 14 years old. My dad was a porn addict. He had his own porn room and he would spend a lot of time in there, and I got exposed at a young age. I'd have to wake him up in the morning to take me to school sometimes, and I don't know if that's where it started or what, but 13, 14, 15 years old, around there is when internet pornography came about. And as soon as that first time, I just first discovered the internet. I guess I didn't realize how bad it was because it was like normal, like it was considered normal. I don't know how normal it is to go home every day and just watch porn and play RuneScape, while your friends are out actually socializing and developing relationships and things like that. But that was my lifestyle. I would just go home and I'd try to watch porn before my mom got home. Several times I got caught, and she'd read my internet, browser history to my dad in front of me, and that was pretty rough to experience. And I just felt very shameful at a young age. I felt like what I was doing wasn't appropriate. I didn't feel very good about myself. This pattern just continued. I kept watching porn all through high school, and by the time I was 18, I had to use pills for my first time to have sex because I had warped my brain so much within those 5 years with porn-induced impotence. It kept me feeling pretty shitty about myself. I had no self-confidence. The only thing that was important to me was really just spending time by myself, either on a phone or a laptop. I just didn't realize how lost I was becoming with myself. Moving on, several relationships failed because of my porn use. I went through, the worst breakup that I had been through. This was about 2 years ago. That person meant a great deal to me, but my porn use damaged the relationship, killed us entirely, killed the intimacy. It really took a lot from her, and it took a lot from me, because it's always been this destructive thing in my life. It's never been a good experience. The relationship failed ultimately because of my porn use, and she tried to help me as best she could. I was in a bad place, I was suicidal, and I was trying to go through nursing school at the same time, and I'd stay up till 6 a.m. when I had to be up at 8 o'clock for something at school, and I would feel like complete garbage because I'd just be tired and feel exhausted and just feel terrible for nearly failing out of nursing school too. I decided I didn't want to do that anymore. I didn't want to feel like that. And I feel like the relationship failure had to happen for me to get to where I am now. And I've had multiple failures, and I've had multiple attempts to try and get clean. And I have an app on my phone that says 300 days as of right now. I'm on the 20th attempt with this app. Most of those attempts were before Orbital, but multiple attempts throughout the years. I realized I had a real problem like 5 years ago, but I really accepted it 5 years ago. I kind of knew I had a problem for a long time, but I didn't really want to do anything about it till about 3 years ago. That's pretty much where I am. I've been in SAA for about 3 years now. Put a lot of hard work into myself, and I've had a lot of setbacks, but I'm in a place I never thought I would be, and that feels fantastic.
Yeah, I really appreciate you diving in. There's so many elements of your story that I think are so important for other people to hear because of how relatable they are. From the early childhood difficulties, the family dysfunction, pornography enters your life, and then the negative consequences start appearing. We say no 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 100 times. And yet, as they say in 12-step recovery, we can all stop. The problem is that we cannot seem to stay stopped. And so I appreciate you walking through all of that. And I'm curious to know now, so you're 4 days away from 10 months sober, and we're also coming up on about a year of working together.
Yeah.
Where are you at today in terms of your life, your recovery? How are things looking for you today versus a year ago when we had our first conversation?
That first phone call that we had, that was where I cried on the phone for, like an hour and a half to you. That was a pretty bleak time in my life, and things have since then improved. I'm in a much better spot. It's just this feeling of like freedom that I have. I could just wake up. I have life's issues that everybody has, but I don't have this massive thing weighing me down anymore. I can focus on trying to better myself and focus on being a good nurse at work and trying to handle relationship issues, be able to navigate that without having to worry about crashing the entire relationship with pornography. I'm at a point now where like I'm just living my life as I was supposed to from the beginning. I just feel like this is where I've always should have been. It's been a journey for sure. I'm really glad to be where I'm at. It's just a great feeling to wake up and know that I have a great community to be able to lean on for support and continue to stay sober. So
that language you used of living the life that you felt like you were supposed to be living really stands out to me. What came to mind for me is the other word to describe that perhaps is recovered.
Yeah, whatever
that
recovered.
We're back. Yeah. Reconnected with life the way that we have an inner sense that it was sort of intended to be. Back in the seat of being the kind of person that we feel called to be in life. And there's a couple questions here that I want to ask, but the first one related to some of the stuff that's currently going on for you, because I think it's such an important idea to capture. We talked about this a little bit prior to obviously jumping into this conversation, but I tell people all the time, right, that quitting porn doesn't solve all your problems. It just helps you to graduate to a better set of problems. And so I'm curious if you could walk us through, your journey of getting pornography out of your life, and then some of the better, much higher quality problems that you're now getting the privilege or the gift of getting to navigate without having pornography like a monkey on your back.
Well, I mean, the problem of having too much attention, I guess, from women, that sounds like it wouldn't be a problem. It can be very confusing sometimes. And when I was just masturbating, like watching porn for 6 hours a day, I wasn't really focused too much on being social, and I could have cared less about any kind of relationship. And now I'm actively trying to pursue a relationship, but there's a lot of female attention when I quit pornography, and I'm trying to manage that and how to find the next right relationship for me. But I feel like it's opportunities that I wouldn't have had if I was still watching porn. It's a healthy challenge, I think, to be able to be here and not just locked away in my own shame cycle, and able to fully navigate my life and deal with normal life stressors and problems without having that on my back, I guess, is the best way to put it.
Yeah, definitely. For anybody watching, this is also something we were chatting about, and I've discussed recently with several members in the community right now. The journey of recovery has many goals, but one of them is to integrate or to reintegrate our sexuality back into our life as a healthy element. But the journey there oftentimes can look pretty counterintuitive, where at first it's a struggle, right, to get pornography out of our life, to understand what was driving that in the first place, to heal the roots, get the support, the accountability, everything that we need for that problem and that behavior to cease. But then the next thing that follows is not, wow, dream dating life, dream relationships. It's actually, we solve the porn problem, and then we graduate to the better set of problems to solve, which is everything now that's unhealthy about my dating life and my relationship skills or whatever. So it's like we get rid of the porn, and then the next stuff comes to the surface for us to deal with. And then when we get that out, that tends to be where people experience their first connections with healthy sexuality. And so where you're at right now is towards, I would say, that breakthrough period out of the second phase, where you're getting this opportunity now, free from pornography, to date and to have all the problems in that area of your life come to the surface, right? I mentioned this earlier. It's such a good problem to have,
Right.
to look backwards to where you were a year ago and to draw that in contrast to where you are today, where one of the hardest problems that you have to deal with in your life is an abundance of female attention, and how you're going to navigate the relational side of your life moving forward. What a better problem to have to deal with. Ultimately, that's what we want to get you through. And then to the next point, right, where you are experiencing healthy sexuality, healthy dating and relationships, and that part of your life, right, has become reintegrated. Definitely wanted to just take a second there to emphasize that. What would you say in terms of tools or support that got you from where you were a year ago when you first got into the program through your first 100 days sober? So what were the things that got you from 0 to 100?
Heavy phone calls and just being a part of the group, like the Saturday calls that we do, just the one-on-one calls with different members. I mean, there were several times where I was about to relapse and I would call somebody, and I'm going to name drop Duncan, but he was a huge help for me. I'd be like, hey, I'm about to look at something I should be looking at. He'd tell me to get the hell out of the house. He was there, and just the power of dealing with something with people your age is insurmountable power, immeasurable. That was the biggest turn on for me for this program, was just how many people my age were dealing with this issue, because for the longest time I thought I was alone. None of my friends had issues. They'd watch porn, but it was never an issue. And so I felt like most of my life I've kind of singled out. That's what really has kept me like locked in and really supported me, is just the group, and being able to text anybody in the group anytime you're having urges or anything like that. It's just huge. That's priceless. And just hearing what you have to say and your caring and your responses to everybody in the community on like a Saturday call, and just have access to you is just, I mean, that's extremely beneficial as well. Like that's the whole package, really. So just the support of the community and you, and I'd say that just to be able to call somebody when you're not doing so well is huge. So yeah, I wouldn't be here if I hadn't picked up that 6,000 pound phone and dialed some people, had conversations and shared my experience and been guided through.
Yeah, it sounds like an abundance of connection
Yeah.
is what solves the problem when isolation and willpower and discipline just never seem to be able to move the needle. We have a wide age range inside of the program for a good reason, because having people at different stages of life is valuable in multiple different directions. But getting inside of a community where there's a lot of guys who are like you, who are farther along this journey than you, that you could lean on for support, for mentorship, for like an SOS call to be like, hey, I'm struggling at this moment.
Right.
That is the level of brotherhood and support, which for me, it honestly, like, it's one of these things that kind of breaks my heart, where for how long I've been in recovery, the brotherhood, the network that I've built out, the people that I can call in order to get support or to help, I'm like, this is my strength. Right. My connection, my network, my community, my brotherhood, these are the relationships from which I draw support and like health and healing and stability. And it breaks my heart to think how many men are going through their life without this kind of support.
Right.
Because I saw what happened when I tried to do this for 12 whatever years alone. And it sounds like you're having, unsurprisingly, a very similar experience.
Right.
Yeah. And what would you say now got you from 100 days to 10 months?
I don't ever want to be in the position that I was in again. That was a rough life, hating myself every day and just feeling so just pushed down by shame constantly, and just I hated who I was, and just I couldn't even look women in the eyes. It was very, very uncomfortable time period for me, and I just didn't want to do that to myself anymore. I deserve better than that. So I just decided, and when I decide to do something, finally, it takes a long time for me to finally decide to do it, but when I decide to do it, I'm done. I just decided I didn't want to hurt myself like that anymore. I didn't want to hurt others I was with potentially in the future, and my family and stuff like that. I just knew I deserved a better life for myself. So I made the calls, I did what I had to do, and I stayed connected and worked the program how I was supposed to. That's been the most benefit for me to get where I am. Just looking back on the journey, it's just wild, because there were several times I didn't think I was going to make it. It just feels good to be here. I never thought I'd be here.
Yeah, it's so powerful for me to hear you say that. What stood out to me was when we first had our conversation, you first got into the program, you mentioned you were in a very dark place where you were suicidal. And another way to word that, based on what kind of connecting to what you just said, was because of this problem, you were considering hurting yourself. And then what I just heard you say is that actually now, because of this problem, you want to love yourself, to not go back into it. And what a radical, 180 shift it is to go from wanting to hurt yourself because of a problem to wanting to save yourself because of a problem. And I've spoken about this on several calls that we've had, and saying this more so for people who are listening to this, that I always say that one of the core shifts that has to happen in early recovery is the movement from negative motivation to positive motivation. It's a very simplistic way to describe it. Every single person I've ever met who struggles with this problem gets into recovery, and they're just laden with self-hatred and shame. And they're trying to beat themselves with a stick into recovering, into healing. And we discover that we're in this situation because we've been hurting so badly. And no amount of causing ourselves pain is going to suddenly magically result in us healing. Addictions arise out of pain. They don't get healed by pain. And the shift that we want to make sure happens, or we're trying to have happen, is where love and compassion and the truth end up being the thing that we are drawing power from to change. And I think what you just said basically perfectly encapsulates that transformation having happened inside of you. And the result of the shift having happened, among the other things, the connection, the support, the tools, right? They all facilitate this happening, is you're standing here 10 months free from this problem, 10 months down the road from a period of time where you were considering taking your own life, now wanting to choose life. Like, that's incredible. I just want to take a moment to recognize that. It's like, it's been such a beautiful thing to watch unfold for you. And it makes me feel just such a tremendous sense of gratitude to have been able to be a part of this shift for your life.
Yeah, it's... Oh, hold on. Something just popped up on my screen. It's something about my printer software.
Porn?
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
God.
Oh God, it's like popping up. All right. I'm tearing up, man, because, yeah, to come from such a dark place and like a real, just a not a good place, to be here and to like just be a part of this community is just something I never thought would be an option for myself. I was so skeptical to get in here. It took me like 2 months to join the program, just because I was so skeptical, but for no reason. I mean, it turned out to be the best decision that I ever did for myself. I don't know if that even answers your question. I'm just thinking about it all.
Yeah, no, it's perfect. On that note, you mentioned you were, of course, very skeptical getting in. Frankly speaking, I understand a lot of the hesitation. The online coaching industry has blown up, and there's a lot of snake oil salesmen out there. Guys who are selling courses and whatever for $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, and then you get inside and it's like, the dude made this with AI. Like, what the heck did I just get pulled into?
Right.
What would you say to somebody who is still struggling in active addiction, maybe on the fence, thinking about joining Orbital, from your perspective now having been in the program for about a year?
I'd say, yeah, like immediately do it. I get being scared. You don't know what's true, what's not, as far as programs. You're like scrolling on Instagram, you see some of these other programs, you go to the website, you're interested, you see the testimonial, they all look like paid actors. Let me just let you know, I'm not a paid actor. I'm a nurse. I have no affiliation. I was very skeptical just because I don't trust anything on the internet. How could a program help me out? It didn't make any sense to me. I can go to SAA in town and I can do this for myself. I don't need any help, I got in touch with Nate through Instagram, I believe. And it took him like 2 months to convince me to actually like join the program because I was so skeptical. I was like, that's quite a bit of money. Is it going to be worth it? I asked him, I was like, let me talk to somebody just so I can prove that this is a real person, and he put me in touch with Duncan. I chatted up Duncan and he basically like took my worrying away. Like he proved it was real. He proved I could talk to him anytime. And I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm not doing anything. I'm not taking care of myself like I should outside of the program. I'm not really doing anything for myself. And it turned out to be the best decision I ever made. I would just say, if you're struggling and you feel like there's no other options and you feel like you don't know what you're going to do, this addiction has just continued to damage you throughout your life and you just feel stuck. You feel like there's not going to be anything that ever changes that. I would just encourage you to listen to these testimonies and really just try to get a feel for who we are. We're real people that have dealt with this addiction. Some of us, like most of our lives, we've pushed through, and there's a lot of good sobriety here, and that's the most important thing is being able to rely on each other. And you'd have access to me, and I just would be available like anybody else in the program. So we're all here for each other, and it might just be the best thing to ever do for yourself. So I would just consider it.
There's nothing in life that we can have certainty over. Could you imagine, like, if you were getting married and you were like, okay, before I put the ring on this woman's finger, I got to get guaranteed, like, there's never going to be a problem child, that there's never going to be a divorce or a breakup. I got to be guaranteed this is going to be like the best thing ever. Nobody would ever get married, right? There's no such thing as certainty that we have in life, except what I would say, what you pointed out, is the one certain thing that we do know is that if you keep doing what you've always done, you're going to keep getting what you've always got.
Right.
And so if we know that we have certainty about continuing down this pathway of trying on our own is not going to work, what's the alternative?
Right.
So I know, and I appreciate you speaking to that, because I know that, again, all the stuff that's out there, getting involved with the program for a lot of people can be a very seemingly big decision, but here you are 10 months later, a year later, 10 months sober. So yeah, I appreciate you walking through all that. I'm curious, were there any moments where during your journey you started to question whether continued growth from this issue was possible, or where you hit any plateaus? And how did you push through those moments?
I would say, yeah, there's definitely been plateaus in my recovery where I felt like I wasn't going to improve anymore. It wasn't feeling like new and exciting. There was no balloons and like surprises when I hit 5-6 months. You're just like, okay, this is it, right? This is just my life without porn, and sometimes it's not fun. Recovery isn't all sunshine and roses, as they say. You do absolutely have plateaus. You have good days, bad days, but it's all just about moving forward. There were several times where I didn't feel like showing up to a call or really interacting with anybody. I feel really down, just like any kind of normal human emotion. And somebody would put something in Slack or something like that, and maybe I didn't want to share, and maybe I was like, I don't really know about all this, and then somebody would put something in Slack that would just talk about their struggle and how they're feeling and where they're at, and that brings me right back to, okay, this is why I'm doing this. Not only to help myself get better, but to be there for other people. So even if I feel like I'm not moving forward, at least I have a chance to be there for other people that might be struggling. That's been a huge thing for me to help push me further in my recovery, is just being there for other people. No recovery is linear. It's not just like a, yep, we're recovered. It is up and down constantly. You are constantly challenged with life events and things like that, and you get the option to choose whether you want to be successful or be who you used to be. And I choose not to be who I used to be anymore. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's a beautifully said. Again, something I also talk about, right, is we get into recovery and we're sort of drawing recovery from others in the community. And then we hit this inflection point after a certain period of recovery and sobriety where what ends up helping our recovery to continue to grow, for us to continue to grow as people, is no longer what we take from a community, but how much we give back to it. And it is this ongoing connection to a brotherhood and a community where, like you mentioned, it is the force that fights the complacency that will cause us to forget that the stove that once burned us is still hot, and will maintain the strength of the momentum that we've built. And it is this ongoing connection, like you said, and this ability to give back, which is where, like, phase 2 of recovery, that's where the real strengthening happens, where this transformation goes from a temporary change into a lifestyle, and then further baked into being who you are, the identity level shift. We also know that there's several people who have joined the program now from watching your first testimonial that you posted with me. And so I'm also curious to know, how does it feel now being in a position where you're actually able to take your experience, some of the worst stuff that you've ever been through, and know that you have the ability to give back, and know that because of you, because of your story, you're actually helping other guys to break free from this problem as well?
I can't even explain to you what that feels like. That's huge. And I talked to a member, I'm not going to share his name, but I talked to him and he told me, yeah, the only reason that he joined is because he saw one of my testimonials that like blew me away. I never thought I'd be in a position where somebody would be looking up to me or even listening to me about this issue. I never thought I would have ever told anybody in the first place about it. That was a deep, dark secret for a long time, and I didn't think anybody would ever know that. Now to be in a position 10 months later where I can be of some help to somebody who's trying to decide whether or not, they want to change their life for the better or stay stuck. That's incredible. I can't really put words to it, how that feels. I just want to continue to be there for people.
And you will, certainly. Do you have any regrets about joining Orbital?
No. No, not at all. I mean, you made it so easy with like the payment plans and everything like that. Like it's been just being in the program's been effortless. Recovery is not effortless, right? I would not be here if I was not in this program. I would still be watching porn, 4 to 5 days a week, 40 hours a week, like it was my full-time job. Still stuck in the shame cycle and not having a very good quality of life, pissed at myself every day and upset and in a really dark place. So, no, it's the best thing I ever did for myself. Yeah, I hope that doesn't sound too cliche, but that's how I feel. So,
No, it's great. And based off of that, maybe kind of like a layup question, but do you feel like Orbital Recovery has given you a positive return on your investment?
100%. 100%. I explained it earlier, but it's literally priceless to be somewhere you never thought you would be, just to not have to worry about this addiction anymore. I mean, I still worry about it, right? We still get urges. You're never like fully healed, but just to have the community, like I could just put a message in the group and just get a reply in like 5 minutes, just have the ability to connect with people in a moment's notice and just have this safety net, like actual brothers that I consider brothers. I mean, these just aren't people that you sometimes talk to. I consider some of these people in this group my actual brothers, and I talk to them quite frequently. That's priceless to me. That connection piece is priceless. And just being on this journey with other people in the same boat as you is priceless. Yeah, 100% return investment, side seal delivered. Yep.
I would never want somebody to get into my program and then have the experience of it being literally a loss. And so I'm really glad, obviously, again, it's kind of a layup given the change that's happened for you, but it is very important to me that every single person who comes into contact with what I'm doing experiences that they got so much more than what they were asked to invest, but also that the investment piece is really something that actually serves you in your recovery, because putting skin in the game, throwing your hat over the fence, so to speak, is part of what gives us the motivation to take something as serious as it needs to be taken for us to get the result that we came for. So with that being said, now that you're sitting here at 10 months sober, you've been inside of Orbital for about a year, what are you looking forward to most? Like, what is exciting you the most about the next year in your journey? Like, what goals do you now have, or what part of your life are you most excited to see your recovery journey beginning to work on?
I think for me, what was really lost in my addiction was like the ability to really show myself self-love, just to be able to show up for myself and hug my inner child, like we say, just to be there for myself. I was never able to do that in active addiction. I hated myself every day. Now it's just, I'm focused on loving myself and doing the best things that I can for myself as far as continuing my recovery. I got to figure out my dating life. I want to find a partner who fits the values that I have for myself and where I want to go in life. I want to start a family at some point. I'm getting up there in age, and I want to continue to excel in my career. Go back to school, work on getting my NP, nurse practitioner, for those who don't know what that is. All these things I would not have been able to do if I was still in active addiction. Having just that massive ball and chain just like weighing you down all the time, it's counterintuitive, and it's more stress that I need to worry about now I don't really have to worry about that anymore. It's just, how do I continue to improve myself? Just positive steps moving forward and continuing to stay connected and show up for myself like I was never able to before.
Yeah, again, what stands out to me is just the graduation to an infinitely better set of problems. To go from having pornography be the biggest problem in our life to relationships progressing forward in our career. Most of these things now don't even really sound like problems. They sound more like exciting opportunities to get to continue to deepen and to heal your relationship with yourself, which every single person in recovery, myself included, I would say is an essential part of the larger pathway of healing and recovery, because we spent years or decades harming ourselves. And so healing that relationship is such an important part of the deeper healing work of recovery. And you're now getting the chance to do that and to advance your career, right? To advance your relationship life. It's sort of like what I hear in your story is that it's like you became unstuck. You're beginning to live the way you should have been. Again, like you said at the beginning, exactly how you've described your experience.
That's pretty much it. Just coming from a place where I never thought I'd be able to emerge from, and to just sit here and look back and see all the progress and everything. It's just surreal to me still. I'm just happy to be sober, and I'm just happy to be a part of this thing. Yeah.
Yeah. And on that note, final question for you here today. Is there anything else that you would want to tell somebody who is currently watching the video now?
I would say take a good, long, hard look at yourself and decide if this is where you want to continue to be, or if you want to be somewhere else, if you want to elevate your life, if you want to stop feeling like shit every day, if you want to stop causing problems in relationships, problems with yourself, if you want to stop punishing yourself daily with shame, hating yourself every day. It seems like a no-brainer being this far in the program, like, duh, why did I just do that right away? But I get being suspicious of like a program or something, or like worried that it's not real, or that you're not going to get anything from it, or just thinking that you're not going to be able to get out of this, that you're stuck. I just want to tell you that you're not stuck. There's an opportunity at hand to help get you out of this place that you're in. I understand. I've been there. I mean, this is just a fantastic opportunity to become a better version of yourself and to finally leave that life behind. It's possible. It takes a lot of hard work. You just won't believe who you are when you finally decide to do the thing that you probably needed to do since the beginning. I just hope you make the right decision, but I understand I don't know what I'm trying to say here, Nate, but I'm just saying I will be available to talk to if you feel like you're still iffy about the program or something like that. If you would just want to chat, I'm sure we could set that up, right, Nate? Like like you did with Duncan for me, Yeah, I would just say, just think about where you want to be in 5 years. Do you want to be stuck, or do you want to be on your way to being healed? That's really all I got with that.
Yeah, powerfully said. Well, Garett, I just want to thank you so much again for taking the time to do this. And we've already seen people join the program from your previous testimonial and begin to get this problem out of their life. And I'm very excited to see how this and your previous testimonial and everything else that you're doing in terms of how you're giving back continues to benefit other people and to help other people who are struggling with this problem to find the freedom that you found. So again, I want to give you a massive thank you for everything that you've done, the work in your recovery journey, the way you've showed up for giving back in the ways that you have. And I am also incredibly excited about the next year of your journey and getting to see, I wouldn't say the real fruits, as if what you've gotten so far is not a real fruit, but the bigger fruits of recovery, right? Not just getting porn out of our life anymore, but the things that we're getting sober for to really begin to appear in our life, right? The self-love, the rebuilding of self-trust and self-respect, healthy relationships, our sexuality integrated back into our life as a healthy element, the actualization of our purpose, right? Moving farther towards the person we want to become and the ways that we want to contribute in our life. And that's exactly what I see coming down the barrel for you. And I'm very excited to get to continue to walk by your side on this journey. So Thank you again for all of this.
Yeah, you're welcome, Nate. I appreciate everything that you've done for me. I hope to continue to be able to be beneficial and help other people in the program as much as I can. And thanks for giving me this opportunity. I mean, you pretty much like saved my life. So I mean, just that's there. I do. I really appreciate you and everything that you've done for this community. So, yeah, thanks, man.